Good morning. It is 9:27 a.m. on Sunday, October 23rd, 2016. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. It's Sunday, so that means it's time for my weekly series of rewatching and recapping. Oh, excuse me. Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Nickelodeon cartoon from a few years back. It's a great show. If you haven't watched it, you've probably been skipping these videos if you didn't already care. But anyway, time for episode. God, I keep losing track of 9. Yes, I keep losing track of the numbers. But the episode is the waterbending scroll, and boy, what an episode this is. This episode kind of returns us to sort of a plot of the week type of story compared to the big two-parter with a series level plot advancement that we just finished. Because in this one, really kind of the only lasting thing is, a little bit of character growth. They now have this waterbending scroll, which is a tool that they can use to start working more on waterbending, learning more about it, which is a positive. But otherwise, there's not a lot that happens in a really huge plot development way. Just the same, boy, what an episode. It's got some great action in it, some great humor, and there's just a lot going on. We get the very important moral lesson: stealing is wrong, unless it's from pirates. It is an interesting question, just the idea that, you have a kid's cartoon that basically kind of comes down at the end on the side that Katara was right to steal this waterbending scroll. Certainly, in context, the pirates were not nice people and they had stolen it themselves, but it's not like Katara was stealing it back in order to return it to its rightful owner or something. She was just taking it because she wanted it. And yet, there's also the larger factor that she and Aang and Sokka are kind of on a quest that's really, really important, and they have limited time, and any tool that they need. I mean, you could make the case that their need trumps. It's an ends justify the means situation, which is an interesting thing to consider. Anyway, at no point are we expected to like the pirates in any conventional way. They're kind of fun. There's a sort of a weird thing where some of them are wearing lipstick, which seems strange, or at least they just have sort of bright colored lips as though they're wearing lipstick. But yeah, the pirates, are obviously coded as bad or at least untrustworthy right from the get-go. But the primary conflict, of this episode, other than just literally having to fight against pirates, is Katara's jealousy. Here she is, kind of self-taught with her waterbending, and pretty good for what it's worth. But then as soon as she's starting to think, hey, maybe I can actually help the Avatar learn waterbending, won't that be cool? And she just kind of immediately is imagining herself in this teacher role to help him learn something that she worked hard on and that she's proud of her skills. But then he just picks it up super naturally, and he is better than her within like 30 seconds. Now, like from an outside, emotionally disinterested perspective, it's like, well, yeah, he's the Avatar. Like, his whole thing is that he's supernaturally gifted. He's going to be able to bend, first of all, he's also a master of airbending already. And you could imagine that some of the skills would translate if you have the ability for multiple multiple. He knows what it feels like to airbend. It seems like that would be at least applicable in some ways. So the point is that it's not terribly surprising that Aang would be really good at it and pick it up very naturally. But we can also understand how that's a little frustrating for Katara. She's like, well, I worked really hard to get to this point, and he didn't even have to try. And then what she's losing sight of, though, in her jealousy is that, Aang's gifts are not, they don't come for free. He has a huge, destiny and responsibility to the world that accompanies those gifts. And so it's all, it's not all simple. But Katara struggles with this in this episode because even after the initial, lesson with the waterbending scroll, once they've stolen it, she snaps. She accidentally snaps Momo and herself with this inexpert water whip, and then yells at Aang. And of course, his feelings are hurt. Sokka has just wisely pointed out exactly what's happening because it's obvious from the outside. And he just points out to Aang what's going on with Katara. And of course, in the grand male-female, brother-sister, any sibling type of relationship, the idea that someone is being irrational, emotional, unreasonable, turns out that the solution usually isn't to tell them that they're being irrational and unreasonable. It's like when someone's overreacting to something and you say, just calm down. No, that never works. If someone is already in that headspace, just telling them to calm down is never going to work. Anyway, so the point is that even after apologizing to Aang, handing over this waterbending scroll and saying, I want nothing to do with it anymore, it's still not true. She's still struggling with it. And I like that's complicated. Because I don't think she's lying when she says it, but she's just so tempted because she's wanted, as long as she can remember, to be better at waterbending. And this is a way to maybe do it, but now she's embarrassed. Now she doesn't want to do it with Aang because of what happened. When the real lesson that they need to learn is that it's not a competition. They don't have to judge each other against each other. They can both try to improve. She can maybe take as an opportunity that he gets it so naturally that maybe he could actually teach her. And if she could just let go of the ego of wanting to be the one who's better, they could both learn together. And in fact, that's actually when they use their waterbending together to stop the boat just above the waterfall at the end of the episode. That's actually what they discover. It's like, yes, oh look, if we do it together, that's better. So even when she initially apologizes and hands over the scroll, that's not the right answer either. There's no reason that she shouldn't try to learn it. She just needs to try to remember that she shouldn't be trying to compare herself to the Avatar in order to gauge her own success. And so that's a nicely complex emotional lesson, especially since Katara has not had a lot of those so far. She's been kind of the most level-headed of the three in a lot of ways. Because Sokka, in some ways, has his own, sort of maturity, but he also has his hang-ups. Aang, it's kind of obvious what his hang-ups are, is that he tends to be flighty and not take things seriously enough sometimes, or he gets distracted easily. And he also seems like he has a little bit of a tendency to run away from things, leading to him being frozen for 100 years. But we also, in this episode, we get some great, action in the whole fight sequence because, of course, Zuko and Iroh have shown up and we have the pirates and the whole smoke cloud. And we get some great moments where there's smoke everywhere and Aang goes whoosh to blow the smoke away, but then he's surrounded by pirates and it's just like, oh, brings it all right back. And we get a nice three-way combat because at that point we've got the pirates and Zuko who both want to kidnap Aang, and the waterbending scroll is almost second place at that point, and everybody's kind of fighting each other. There's some great humor. Um, we should also just briefly touch on there's a lot of humor in between Zuko and Iroh. Those two, that relationship is one of the highlights of the show as I rewatch it. Those two are great. Um, they're fun to watch together. It is the Iroh is lots of fun, and just as this is not a spoiler, except to say that the significance of Iroh looking for a lost lotus tile for his little game um, more significant than it might initially appear. So just keep an eye on Iroh related to that. This episode wouldn't necessarily tell you that, except, of course, just this idea that, oh, he lost it, and then it turns out, oh, he actually had it all along. Is he really that absent-minded? Is he? Or is there something else going on? I'll leave it there. But in any case, the two of them, with Iroh just kind of like, well, none of these places had the lotus tile I wanted, but if there's anything better than finding what you were looking for, it's finding what you weren't looking for at a great bargain. And he's buying all of this extra stuff. And he's like, why did you buy this, like, whistle flugelhorn or something like that? And he's like, I thought it would be fun for music night on the ship. Now, if we only had some woodwinds. So that's all fun. And then, so, of course, we get some tension with the pirates and all of that, and what did they want, because they're sort of this mercenary but otherwise disinterested party. They don't care about the ongoing conflict, they're just in it for money, whereas Zuko is determined to catch the Avatar above all else, and the kids don't want to get captured by anybody. It's a nice detail that Aang's airbending is less useful on nets. But lots of just good stuff going on. And I think my favorite bit from Iroh in this episode was actually the whole thing of, Zuko is now fighting the pirate captain, and Iroh, first of all, just steps in and immediately just is able to just force both of them to disengage easily because he's a badass. He's in secret. Well, not secret, it's just he doesn't advertise it, is the point. And then he says, are you both so busy fighting that you can't see that your own ship is sailing away? And then Zuko's like, there's no time for your proverbs, old man. And he's like, no, it's actually sailing away. And so this is the pirate ship stolen by Aang, Katara, and Sokka being stolen away. They were able to do it because they worked together on waterbending. And so in the middle of Zuko laughing that the pirate's ship has been stolen, he sees the pirates stealing his ship, and now he doesn't find that as funny. And then Iroh watches Zuko running off and just kind of goes, maybe it should be a proverb. Good stuff. So this episode has a lot of great humor and action. We get like a nice little character building lesson from Katara, and who hasn't had a lot, mostly just because she's I guess the one where imprisoned, the idea of learning a little bit that it's it takes more than pretty words sometimes to break out of oppression. Anyway, I think that probably does it for this week. Next week we'll talk about episode 10, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.